And that came in the form of Derrick Henry's extension. That's what we learned, and that's what's now confirmed. The Ravens awarded Derrick with a 2-year, $30 million extension that includes $25 million fully guaranteed over the next 2 seasons. Todd France of Athletes First was the representative of Derrick, and it is now the largest deal in NFL history for a running back over 30 years old. This is a commitment to Derrick Henry, who is over 30. Like we mentioned, last year was his age 30 season. And oh, by the way, he just put up over 1,900 rushing yards, 16 rushing touchdowns, played in all 17 games, totaled it for 5.9 per carry, and was a complete and utter explosive weapon within the confines of Todd Monken's offense alongside Lamar Jackson. So this is a commitment, of course, to Derrick through 2027. This is an investment in Derrick Henry, which now makes him, in terms of average annual value, the third highest paid running back when it comes to value and what he brings to the table league-wide. That's behind Saquon Barkley in Philly and Christian McCaffrey, of course, in San Francisco. So, look, was this a surprise? No, this was clearly something that was a priority all offseason long. Perhaps Saquon's extension in Philly that he was awarded after they won the Super Bowl muddied the water or delayed things a little bit, but it's done now. A significant domino has fallen for the Ravens, and now King Henry, along with many other pieces when it comes to their core on both sides of the football, particularly offensively, is intact. The core is intact, and now they get to chase after it yet again within this window right now of opportunity when it comes to that elusive, coveted Lombardi trophy. And there it is, again, confirmed by the team from Ravens Productions with the attached graphic that they have agreed to terms. And number 22 will be in Baltimore's backfield through at least the 2027 season. And maybe, just maybe, there's a conversation to be had. Will that take him to retirement? Will he get a ring, earn a ring, win a ring over the next couple of years? And if he does indeed do that, will he be retiring after the 2027 season? That's a conversation for another time. But on the other side of 30, to be playing with this level of tenacity, this level of efficiency, this level of explosiveness, we'll get into the numbers in just a bit, is nothing short of exceptional. He is one of one. He is an outlier, and that's what the Ravens are committing to. That's what they're investing in. That's what they're buying into. They're betting on Derrick's longevity. They're betting on Derrick's professionalism, his durability, and everything else that he's showcased during his lone season in Baltimore. It's hard to believe that it's only been 1 year since the King became a Raven. And here he is talking to you, the flock, earlier once this thing became official. Flock with a bunch of emojis. God is good. Ravens, I'm appreciative and grateful for everyone a part of this great organization, and a big shout out to all my teammates to be able to make this possible. Thank you, Flock Nation, for always supporting, working as hard as I can to be able to contribute to us holding up that trophy when it's all said and done. Love 22. That from the King. And I can't help but think about an interview that he did within the last year or so with Mark Ingram, his Fox Sports podcast. And he had this to say about his overall longevity, where he's going, how he's doing this at 30 plus years of age, almost an ascending running back. You know, I love that phrase. He is an ascending running back at this point in his career, and that certainly makes him an outlier when it comes to NFL history.
Them people, man, hey, it's how you feel, dog, and you toting that thing better than anybody in the league right now. So how does that even feel, bro? Because when you turn 30, they just suppose like you're gonna fall off. How did that feel, bro? Coming from Tennessee last year, you went for 1,100 yards and 12 TDs just last year. And these people talking about he 30, he going to be old, he ain't going to be the same. Like, what's that about, bro? What that made you feel like, bro?
Yeah, really, I just wanted an opportunity. I knew I still had a lot left in the tank, and then being a free agent, just seeing who was interested, and I wanted to be Baltimore. There was Baltimore. It was not the Cowboys.
Oh,
The Cowboys were, if Baltimore wasn't interested, then, that'd be another good spot to go to because I live in Dallas. There's been so much talks about I want to go to the Cowboys. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be here in Baltimore, and thank God it happened. But being 30 years old in opposition, that comes that stigma is always going to be on a running back position, no matter who you are, just because that's the nature of the game as far as age and the position. But I don't focus on that. I know I can still play at a high level, and thank God I've been able to play this long, and been trending in the right direction, so far this season.
Why is 30 that magic number for running backs?
I don't know. It's just the statistics of the position, and especially guys who had success early, who get a lot of carries, and then have a lot of mileage. And then once you get up to that age, then you kind of see you know a little fall off as you creep into the 30s and 31s. But it's been some guys who've had success, but it's not it's not a lot of guys that had that much success. But I mean, I understand it, but I don't accept it. So
Right.
I'm a write my own narrative and work as hard as I can to have success and help my team and do my job the best way I can.
You're dang right. He's written his own narrative. Goodness gracious. And that narrative and that story will continue. There will be more chapters. Look at what he did in 2024. He was first in rushing grade, according to PFF, at over 93. He was first in yards after contact with over 1,100. He was first in missed tackles forced with 81. And he was first in first down rushes with 93. And look at what he's done since 2020, which, of course, majority of which was in Tennessee, the most games with 100-plus rushing yards. He's got 37 of them. The next closest is Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis with 24. It is nothing short of amazing. And to talk about it from a monetary standpoint, from a financial perspective, is friend of the show and Ravens salary cap analyst for Russell Street Report. You can hit him up on X or Twitter at Ravens salary cap, and that is my friend Brian McFarland. Sarah Ellison will be joining us shortly once she gets her kids in order. But Brian, this is obviously a big domino that we were anticipating, and it gets done pre-schedule release. Your instant reaction when it came down earlier today?
Yeah, well, of all the extensions, this seemed like the one that was going to be the most likely to happen, that should happen, so to speak. You don't like a player, you don't like a top player going into that last year of his deal as a lame duck or a pending free agent. And you're going to use the franchise tag next year on a 32-year-old running back. Probably not. So you want to get that done. There was just too many reasons for it to get done. He was obviously he outperformed that contract. He was coming off of, for him, a down year. So the Ravens got a real bargain, but you can't, you want to keep the guy happy. We don't always think about that with contracts like this, but, he signed up for his contract, so he knew what he signed up for. Well, when you outlive that contract, you deserve to be paid. And he certainly did. I mean, if he doesn't, if they don't blow out a couple of games, he might be over 2,000 yards again. What he was at 1975 or something like that. It was really close. So, it just made too much sense. And I think you mentioned it earlier. I think the Barkley deal. I think the last time we spoke, last time we talked about Henry, that Barkley deal probably, because it kind of came out of nowhere. They ripped up 3 or 4 years of that deal and started it over. So I think that probably, slowed things down a little, but it still just made too much sense to get this done.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, that number from last year from a rushing yards perspective was 1,921. And to your point, had they not just sent teams out of stadiums and maybe even hadn't been so conservative to start with the King when it comes to usage, I mean, he would have absolutely been in that 2,000 category. And that would have been the second time in his career. We all remember that historic 2020 season where he went for 2,027. You never know. He could have that on his mind, Brian, in the coming years, now that he's going to be in Baltimore through 2027. This is certainly a commitment. This is an investment, and this is a belief. They are instilling belief in what they've seen from Derrick Henry. Sarah has the APY list right here. Would love to get your thoughts on it because you can make the argument, gosh, just in terms of how much of a bargain he was last year. Yes, he's the oldest player on this list by a couple years, and he does vault himself back into top 5 APY. So, and he's going to double his earnings, what he was set to make, which I believe was 7 prior to this extension. So Saquon Barkley leads the way, 20.6, which we've alluded to a couple times. Christian McCaffrey, 19. Both of those players are 28 years of age. And now the king at 31 comes in at 15, flanked by Jonathan Taylor, who's 26 at 14 million, and Alvin Kamara at 20. God, doesn't feel like Alvin Kamara is like 39. It feels like he's been around forever, but he's at 12.3, rounding out the top 5, and he is 29 years of age. So I guess, how can you gauge the fairness level if you were to talk about from the team's perspective and Derrick Henry's party? How do you gauge this in terms of fairness?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's right down the middle. I think it's kind of perfect, honestly. I kind of thought before the Barkley deal, as you said, Henry's prior deal was $8 million a year. Clearly, was deserving of a bump. Barkley at that point was, I think it was 12.5 on the prior deal, so he was actually below Taylor. So I thought 12 to 13 was probably the sweet spot before the Barkley extension. But obviously that changed things. So, from a Ravens perspective, I don't know if you'd want to go to more than 15. And from Henry, I mean, the difference is Henry's 31, and I mean, it does make a difference. Now he seems like the unicorn. He's this kind of guy I think they feel safe betting on. It's a 2-year extension, so it's 3 years. They're probably going to put void years in it. So if they get 2 years out of it, and he retires or the wheels come off the cart, so to speak. If they get two solid years, it's a great deal. The third year they'll have a little bit of dead money, but if you get 2 really good years out of it, you'll eat that happily. So that's kind of where it is. But I think 15 is kind of just sure, the Ravens would like it to be a little less, I guess, and he'd like it to be a little more, maybe, and that tells you it's a good middle ground then.
Yeah, and what ground would the Ravens have to stand on? I mean, he's brought an element of just explosiveness, and he and Lamar have truly become this dynamic that has to make life for Todd Monken super fun. You're going to be waiting on the specifics when it comes to the void years and whatnot, I'm sure, to populate. But Albert Breer here has the cash flow in terms of the next 3, $14 million fully guaranteed. You've kind of already referenced this, but $14 million fully guaranteed, $11 million in year 2 fully guaranteed, and then 12 in 2027. So $18 million for the extra year. The team gets the option in 2027, and this is kind of what you're getting at here, right? Like let's see that cliff. He has shown absolutely no signs of that cliff nearing. But if for some reason it comes out of left field, the Ravens are in pretty darn good shape.
Yeah, for sure. And the way they've been doing contracts, I would kind of assume they're going to tack on 2 void years to stretch out the bonus money. Looking at that $14 million, I had actually there was some inkling that this was going to happen this week. So I'd kind of put together a little example, and actually it was pretty darn close to these numbers. I had it 13 million in the first year, 11 in the second, and so 13. So and
Here
then
it is, right?
and then one. So I was off by I was 1 low on the first year and 1 high on the last year. 1 million high each year. So if that holds, then it's probably going to save him about 3 million in cap space this year. Which is nice. So that's helpful for the Ravens for their future expenses and maybe bringing in maybe a safety or now or whoever. So I mean that's helpful, but so it's pretty much right where it should be. The numbers should work out nicely, I think. So.
Okay, so that'll be in addition, though. That sum will be in addition to what you've been on top of too, given last week's news with Justin and the post-June 1 designation. Marcus Williams will be used as such as well. And is that number just north of 4, if memory serves?
Tucker's 4.2, Williams is 2.1. The Michael Pierce's retirement will be 1.25, which obviously isn't a lot. And then it hasn't shown up on anything official yet on cap stuff, but Bowser dropping his grievance. If it's fully dropped, that's one, they'll get a 1.8 million credit there. So they've got a lot of money coming in soon, so to speak. So to help cover things, but definitely opens things up where they can go out and get some other players and not potentially have to restructure guys yet. Now, trade deadline, they might have to restructure somebody then, and there's still more business to do. They'd love to. I'm sure they're trying, but they'd love to get a deal, an extension done with Lamar, which would create a lot of cap space.
Yeah.
If you're a guy, if you're talking about Linderbaum or Hamilton, they'll need some cap space, not a lot, but they're going to need some cap space for those two. So this money could go towards that as well. Travis Jones, Isaiah Likely, actually they would create cap space with extensions there. Same with Mark Andrews. So, I'm obviously have no idea what direction they're going with the tight ends at this point, but so they've got a lot of items on their plate, and this is the time of year. You got OTAs, but they're behind the draft. Most of your planning is done, so this is the time to get extensions done, May and June and into July. Once training camp hits, focus changes a lot, but so this part of the summer is the perfect time to get extensions done, and hopefully this is the first of many, to be honest with you.
And they also have other internal business to handle, right? Like only a portion of the rookie class is signed at this point. And
they still have their top 2 picks to take care of, but that doesn't, because they're rookie deals. That first year cap number isn't terrible, so that's not going to make a great impact on the cap at this point.
Okay, and then the practice squad too, that'll have to be allocated.
Those numbers will come up, and then carrying, obviously at this point, they're whether he goes on IR or PUP, but Darius Washington, that's almost 3.3 million that's going to be sitting on a reserve list, and you got to replace him. So if it's a guy like Bo Braid, then that's not going to cost you much. But if they go out and get a veteran for $1 million or $2 million, then you basically put 5 plus. If it's $2 million, you put like 5.3 million into your that third safety spot, even though one of them can't play. So that's the team has to be mindful of those things, and fans should be mindful of those future expenses too. Right now, if I do the numbers prior to those expenses, they're looking at probably 16 million in cap space. So that's wow. So that sounds great. And I always hesitate telling people those numbers sometimes, because we're going to go sign everybody, but you got to factor those future expenses in. Once that happens, the practice squad's 4 million. You'd like to carry 6 million into the season. So once those expenses happen, you're probably at 3 to 4 million. So it's not a lot of extra cap space. But this time of year, you're not going to be spending, you're not going to get a guy for a $10 million cap number. It's just not going to happen. Right. A guy like Clowney, you could get for probably a $4 million cap number, which would kind of fit right into these numbers, actually.